All right. So growing the accelerator that is rooted in Asia with global connections, our current food system is at the heart of many of today's challenges. It's clear that we urgently need to accelerate wide-ranging solutions for how we produce, process, package, transport, consume, and dispose of our food. At GROW, we accelerate startups that have innovative solutions across the spectrum of agriculture and food technology that address emerging needs in our sector. We believe that the only way to truly build a sustainable and resilient food system is to help startups across the entire value chain from farm to fork. Over the past 4 years, we have accelerated more than 100 companies who have gone on to raise $250 million in funding and create more than 1,500 jobs in this all-important sector. We are extremely proud to work with the talented team at AgFunder to bring the AgFunder GROW Impact Accelerator to life, and I am delighted to be joined by John, who will now share more about AgFunder and why we started this program. Over to you, John.
Thanks very much, Jamie. I am delighted to be here. Sorry. No, really, thanks very much for taking the time and tuning in to learn a little bit more about the AgFunder GROW Impact Accelerator program. As Jamie introduced, I am the Asia Director for AgFunder. I've been with the firm for the last 4 years, helping to build out our Asia presence, business activities, help to oversee the Accelerator program in addition to our investments in and around the region. Hopefully most of you tuning in are familiar with the AgFunder brand. Obviously, most of you would probably know us through the AgFunder News media side of the business. In addition, obviously, over the last 5 years, we have been expanding our venture capital fund management side. Slight update to the stats on the screen. We've got about 200 million assets under management right now, deploying capital from 2 funds. Fund 4 in the US, more of a sort of Series A stage type vehicle. We have our Asia Impact Fund, which is more sort of seed stage, obviously with a strong focus on investing in startups from the Asia region. And then I should also, of course, mention the GROW Impact Fund, which successful applicants who are selected to participate in the GROW Impact Accelerator program receive funding from the GROW Impact Fund. But we'll dig a little bit deeper into that later on in this presentation. For now, I think just to mention, yeah, I think, it's been a wonderful journey into our 5th year now, partnering with the GROW Accelerator to run this really excellent, high quality accelerator session for early stage founders and their startups to help provide greater opportunities to meet with investors, commercial partners, expand their sort of geographic horizons. But more about that and the format of the program later on. So back over to you, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, so being industry specialists, we focus on the business of agri-foodtech. Those of you on this call will know the challenges of this sector is very different in terms of the context, the path to grow, scaling and exiting are also different, and each stage of growth can present unique challenges and barriers. Through this program, you can learn from a wide array of industry experts, as well as be matched with an expert coach according to your needs and priorities, who will journey alongside you during the program. This program comes with support from the dedicated AgFunder investment team, who will work with you on your fundraising journey. In addition to these very important elements, a huge benefit for successful participants is the opportunity to be featured in AgFunder News, which is one of the most respected publications in the industry and reaches more than 100,000 global subscribers and millions of website visitors annually. We know firsthand from previous participants that the industry exposure is extremely valuable and has driven more interest and introductions for their businesses. Finally, as mentioned, we have a global ecosystem of mentors, coaches, scale-up partners who look to grow an AgFunder to see what innovations come through our programs that could be applicable to their businesses. It includes government regulators, research and development centers, global corporates, and a wide investment community. Our participant satisfaction scores speak for themselves, with many of our previous cohorts saying this has been one of the most supportive programs valuable for their business growth, with more than 90% rating it as extremely useful for their businesses. We work hard to ensure you have all of the tools, connections, and confidence to succeed. And 100% of our participants agree. The GROW and AgFunder team are really passionate about this space and the people we work with, and so we put our hearts into making sure this program has a really positive impact. We have a great reach of industry titans who get actively involved in the program, and an even bigger audience of supporters who regularly tune in for our demo days, which leads to facilitating tangible outcomes such as securing partnerships, commercial opportunities, and further investment. The program goes across 6 months and will be delivered in a hybrid format, which includes 2 one-week residential components in Singapore. One at the beginning and one at the end of the program, as well as a number of digital coaching and group sessions. We work across 4 phases: the run-up to the program, where we lay out all of the foundations to map out your individual journey with us, followed by our ready, set, and grow phases designed to help you build and scale your businesses. We are particularly excited about the residential aspects, where the whole cohort gathers in Singapore with the GROW and AgFunder team, as well as meet and network with local and regional partners and investors. The program will start this year on 14th May and will end with a high-profile demo day during the Singapore International Agri-Food Week, one of Asia's largest industry initiatives. As mentioned, we take a personalized approach for your program journey, which is primarily led by one-on-one engagements. We supplement this with group learning sessions in the bootcamps, and we hold ecosystem events to widen your network of support. Bootcamp 1 will be delivered in Singapore in early June. Bootcamps 2 and 3 will be virtual on Zoom, and we will welcome the cohort back in November for a week full of activities and our all-important demo day. We space these activities out so you have time to integrate the learnings into your growth strategy with your business and investment coaches and apply these learnings. And hence, this is the way we show that the program is very outcome driven. For successful applicants, you will receive a schedule of the dates well in advance to ensure you can block out the time to come to these sessions. Outside of this official program touchpoints, the GROW and AgFunder team will also introduce you to additional relevant business and mentor contexts that will be helpful to your business. So to bring this to life, I would like to show you a short video highlighting our most recent demo day, where our 10 startups from cohort 4 pitched to and networked with over 200 investors, corporates, and ecosystem partners.
We're excited to share with you our newest crop of agri-food innovators, the movers and shakers who will help shape Earth 2050.
Get ready for a food system renaissance as these startups revolutionize agribusiness, reframe inputs, reprogram health systems, and reinforce climate adaptation. Because there is no redoing our planet.
We understood the problems of farmers like Ram by working with over 100,000 farmers, mostly in South India, 3 of the largest bankers in India, as well as impact organizations.
In Osar, we know how to accelerate trait development 3 times faster than others, with world-class competence in molecular biology and bioinformatics.
Just think, if we could put 1 million farms in 1 million pockets, that could deliver $10 billion to a multi-trillion-dollar industry.
Startups really get access to the Asia ecosystem. We have a presence here in Singapore, we have an office here, and having the teams come into Singapore gives them a real insight into what's happening in the region and also the opportunities that we make available for them.
We only work with impact startups who, like us, have a mission to support and change the world when it comes to sustainability, health of the planet and health of people. And these are the kind of startups that we've been able to attract to our programs.
right, so now hopefully you guys got a glimpse of how the demo day you will enjoy will look like, and you're excited for it. And I would also like to hand over to John right now to share more about the program mechanics if you were to join this program. John?
Thanks, Jamie. So as mentioned earlier, obviously there is an investment component to participating in the AgFunder GROW Impact Accelerator program. This, at a high level, sort of involves a $100,000 investment from the AgFunder GROW Impact Fund. Just to keep it simple for the purpose of today's call, the typical instrument that we're investing into your company through is going to be a safe note. A typical YC template safe. The exact terms of which are essentially negotiated with you as part of the application process and selection process. We like to think of ourselves as, I'm going to say, generally pretty founder friendly. I'm not going to kid yourself. I think we all have to be practical and prudent in the current environment, not to be sort of subscribing at sort of any given valuation. I'm just going to be very transparent and upfront. So, there's obviously, metrics and return expectations that we have to achieve from a fiduciary standpoint. And we would have that sort of negotiation and discussion with you to understand what your prior fundraising journey has been like, how much capital you've raised, what your previous valuation has been, for example, and come to an agreement around, a suitable valuation cap, typically through this particular instrument. Now, I'll just also add to that, if, for example, we've had cases in the past whereby a participant in the program is currently fundraising through a priced equity round, then we are open to considering that as well. And typically we would look to subscribe to that round potentially with some extra benefits, essentially for the added value that we bring as part of the GROW Accelerator participation. But I think all I need to sort of mention at this point is it's highly negotiable. We don't enforce a one-size-fits-all methodology. And so, we leave that open to discussion at that point during the application process. Back over to you, Jamie.
Thanks, John. So, as John has mentioned, and also as I've mentioned earlier in the presentation, the range of solutions that we are looking for this program is pretty wide. And of course, we do have certain focus areas such as AI and digital transformation, carbon market solutions, food waste reduction and mitigation, precision tech in aquaculture, food bioprocessors, as well as biomaterials. Our minimum requirement is you should have an MVP, but of course, any kind of traction in terms of pilots are definitely good proof points. And if you can understand what is the commonality across these focus areas, it's definitely in terms of the impact that we're looking at. So I will also move on to share about the application process that you will have to go through. So applications do close on the 25th of February, so we have roughly a month. So please be sure to submit your application as soon as possible. And the assessment considerations that we have, firstly, impact. It is in the title of the program, so make sure in your application you're communicating what is the impact that your potential, your company could bring about. We are also looking for some things that are unique and innovative, showing that you have a clear market opportunity, showing that you have a clear business model, and that this business model has potential for scalability. Show us some existing traction, and show us that you have a strong founding team. So you can find the application link on our website, which will be circulated after this session. And I would really like to give some final tips for this application process. I do feel these application tips are applicable for not just our program, but really in terms of anytime you're communicating with other investors or other partners. So every question has a purpose. Think through your responses critically. Treat it as an exercise to question your underlying business foundations. Be clear and concise. The word limits are useful guidelines. Avoid going way under or over, and get somebody who's outside of your team to provide feedback on whether what you are sharing is clear enough and is easy to understand. I mean, and next, make sure you are tailoring your responses. Do not copy paste the same answer into every single box. Make sure you are being truthful and sincere, because we will be doing due diligence to verify the responses you are giving us. And finally, note that we received over 600 applications last year, so the competition is pretty strong, and hence make most of your effort to make sure that your application does stand out from the rest. Right, so we hope everyone's looking forward to being part of the GIA community, and hopefully I can address some of the questions, or myself and John can address some of the questions that you guys have. So if any of you have any questions about anything about the program that has not been addressed, feel free to put it in the chat and we will try and answer them. And if we do not happen to not get to them, please be assured that we will respond to them over email in the FAQ documents. If you have very specific questions to your company that you do not wish to ask here, feel free to write an email to me and we will address your questions over email. So welcome any questions from all of you here.
Also, feel free to just unmute yourself, raise a hand, whatever, shout it out. Obviously, the purpose of this call is hopefully, as more questions get asked by your peers and counterparts, then obviously everyone can learn and benefit from that. If you're too shy, feel free to put it in the chat box. That's fine. Evelyn.
Yes, thank you. My question is about the investment, the 100K. If you could go back to that slide, please. Yeah. So the part that says 30% program, a 30% program fees, is that part of the 100K or no?
It is. So from essentially the fund would have a 100,000, essentially, to answer your question, most simplistically, you net 70K. The fund is writing the investment, and money is wired from the fund's account, $100,000, which obviously sort of converts into shares upon that future conversion. From that amount, there is 30%, 30,000, which goes back to GROW for program fees. We believe, and I think it's fair to say, that the value in kind of the program, the content, all the materials, the mentorship, etc., that you will be receiving goes way beyond that $30,000. Essentially, it's really to keep the lights on and keep the team employed, just to put it bluntly. But yes, that is the sort of program fee for participation. Hope that answers your question, Evelyn.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Hi, I'm seeing a question from York. Nice to meet you. You are in manufacturing cosmetics, oil, and protein from the food larvae. Is this relevant to the program? I would like to direct this question to John. How would you respond to this?
Yep, just reading it as manufacturing cosmetics, oil, protein from food larvae. Interesting. Sure, it is. It is in scope. Let me put it that way. I think I recognize there was maybe a slide earlier which I sort of skipped over, and Jamie handled it very well. But in terms of the areas of interest that we're sort of focused on this year, there's certain key areas, and this has been sort of articulated and expanded upon in our call for applications on AgFunder News, etc. Fundamentally, we're looking for transformative solutions across the value chain of ag and food. I think the area that you're potentially working on, sort of valorization of new inputs, etc., does have real interest from some of our customers and partners that we work with. So there's always that consideration of how can we not only add value to you as the founders, but also try to connect you to relevant customers and partners on our network who would have interest in helping to sort of commercialize and provide that sort of offtake from the teams that we're supporting. So yeah, in short, by all means, it's definitely in scope. Please feel free to submit an application.
Thanks, John. I can address James' question. If no investment come in, do the participants still need to pay the US dollars 30K? So if you are selected for the program, you will definitely get the 100K safe investment from AgFunder. If you do not get it, that means your participation in the program was not successful, and you would definitely not need to pay the fees. So these two come together. Is there anything you would add to this, John?
Yeah, my interpretation of James's question, I think, potentially is, is there an additional sort of success fee in terms of investor introductions that would sort of justify the payment of the 30,000? In that case, no. Essentially, once you are selected to join the program, you can obviously sort of reject that opportunity. But once you have signed the documents and commenced the program, in terms of the logistics, you fly out to Singapore for that first boot camp. That shows us that you are committed, and afterwards we would essentially wire the 100,000 to your company bank account, and once that money lands, you're expected to pay the program fees. Obviously, any additional success that comes out of your participation, any sort of additional investor introductions, customer pilots that you line up, there's no additional sort of value capture that we would seek to enforce. That's yours to enjoy, essentially. And there's plenty of it, guaranteed.
Thank you, John. Would you like to take Evelyn's question on ROI?
Sure. Let me just read this. What ROI are you looking at? What is your exit strategy? How diverse have your programs been in the past? Let me answer the second part. How diverse have our programs been in the past? I guess in terms of participant profile. Jamie, not sure if you've got any sort of content that we can sort of flash up on the screen, but at a high level, or simply put, we've typically selected and accelerated 10 companies per cohort for the last 4 years. And the focus areas are as wide and varied as alternative proteins, everything from plant-based foods to bioreactor design in cultivated meat, to biomaterials and sort of alternative plastics, to AI-enabled supply chain quality assurance and traceability, to on-farm robotics, to digital IoT, sort of farm management software solutions, you name it. Anything that falls along the value chain of food and ag from upstream to downstream facing the consumer is potentially in scope. Maybe, Jamie, if you can just sort of flip to the focus area slide. These sort of general high-level sort of topics that we've talked about, it's on the website, it's in our sort of call for applications piece on AgFunder News, are sort of high-level, sort of more stronger focus areas, let's put it that way, which we've landed on in consultation with a number of our corporate partners in the fund. Part of our value add to our limited partners in the fund have strong, are looking for solutions in these particular spaces. So hence we sort of call them out more explicitly. The opportunity, we believe, is obviously being able to put you as the startup, as the innovator, in front of these corporate partners to help to commercialize your technology and your solution. Jumping back to the first question, what ROI are we looking at? I mean, whether or not this answers it, as a venture capital fund manager, we are first and foremost seeking to generate financial returns for our limited partners. We have that fiduciary responsibility. At the same time, we are also trying to prove a point and evangelize, food system transformation, make it happen, put our money to work. At the end of the day, we're expected to deliver returns to our LPs. The type of fund performance metric that we have advertised when fundraising is 20 to 30% IRR. You do the maths. The venture capital probability. We're going to get one winner out of a cohort of 10. There's no sort of hard and fast rule, but ultimately this maybe goes back to the question around valuation consideration and investment negotiation. We have to believe when we are accepting you into the cohort and writing that check for $100,000, that $100,000 is going to potentially return a multiple, recognizing that the probability of you going on to achieve that success is there's still a lot of risk involved, but we have to sort of come into it believing that the opportunity at the end of the tunnel, let's say, is large enough to deliver that type of return that we are hoping for. Hopefully that answers your question, Evelyn. And thank you, Mags, for providing the sort of portfolio link to the website. If those of you who want to see the variety of companies that we have accelerated and worked with and invested in, that's a great snapshot of our alumni to date.
Thanks, John. Let me address the next question by Chetany, that you are currently working around an idea and you have some prototypes, but still not at the MVP stage, whether you will be eligible for the program. I would like to iterate that this program is a scale-up stage program. And if I could draw your attention back to how kind of the program, the topics that the program will touch on, while these topics may be applicable to very early stage startups, we do expect the participants to have a certain level of experience and actually building the business already, and they will benefit the most when they come into this program. The program isn't meant to help you bring the idea to something that can be tested, but you are actually already testing your solution with market players, with your potential customers. So I would say if you are really still at the ideation stage, this program may not be the most relevant for you, but we do have other programs in the earlier stage, and I would encourage you to write to me to give me more context as to what your business is about, and I can advise you finally on whether this program is indeed suitable for you. So please write to me and share more about what you are working on, and then I can let you know as well. And I think we have questions. Hopefully I answer Chetany's question, and I think a little bit similarly, Leng's question about setting up a vertical farm in North Europe. Is it a possible idea to get this investment? So if it is at the ideation stage, I would say it might not be the most suitable program for you, simply because you should have started building the business by the time you apply to this program. But if it is more about the point about whether setting out a vertical farm in North Europe is a solution that we would look at for this program, we would look at this solution because it does apply to our agri-food value chain. Anything, John, you want to add?
Yeah, I'll add on to that point, not to sort of dissuade you, Leng, from submitting an application, but I think what we are more focused on is less around production, like investing in farms, and more around technology enablement, new innovations, whether maybe it's a piece of componentry or a digital pollination solution for your vertical farm, right? Which is more of the picks and shovels element as opposed to a farm, So just being very candid, that's kind of what would sort of pique our interest a little bit more. I think I can take Damilare's question. Hopefully I've pronounced your name correctly. Damilare has asked, and I'm really curious to learn more about Spotify for Food. I've noticed that many companies in the last cohort focus on farm transformation. Does our food value chain emphasize farm to fork approach? I think how I would respond to that is more from the observation. From our perspective, and our sort of position in the industry, what are sort of the investable areas? What are the categories or sort of verticals along this agri-food value chain where we believe there is strong sort of market pull through, follow-on investment appetite? I mean, all of these considerations, I guess, come into our mind and come into play when ultimately selecting the cohort. I think sort of addressing your question specifically around upstream versus downstream, we do observe a trend over the last sort of 12 to 24 months where downstream consumer focused, whether it's products such as alternative proteins or even downstream sort of marketplaces, food delivery, et cetera, these categories along the value chain of food and ag have seen significant drop-off in investor appetite and interest. You could put it down to maybe in the case of alternative proteins, that sort of lack of sort of consumer evidence and pull through in terms of the actual market. Or in the case of like a food delivery solution, obviously heightened competition and a much more sort of mature incumbents operating in that space, which leads to essentially consolidation within that particular vertical. So I think, the reflection of that is increasing investor appetite and investor interest shifting towards the upstream end of the value chain, recognizing that, perhaps there's untapped opportunities / needs to be investing in more innovation upstream when we're talking about, seed genomics, for example, the climate resistance or resilience, for example, innovating more on the upstream and even sort of the midstream sector in terms of, supply chain logistics, cold chain solutions, food waste avoidance. So that's where we sort of see the investment trends within our sector. Hopefully that provides a bit of color and perspective to your question. Maybe that ties into Evelyn's next question. What if the production has a processing food waste mitigation component? Yeah, we love that. We're all about food waste mitigation. It's definitely a hot topic certainly amongst our strategic partners, both on the fund level as well as the sort of non-investor corporates related to the GROW platform that ultimately we seek to put you in front of. Waste valorization, waste mitigation, once again, the connections to greenhouse gas emissions and climate thematic, which is obviously the talking point, is still very relevant. And so definitely that segment, that solution is one which we would take a lot of interest in.
Thanks, John. We have another question from Hiroya. Would you like to take that?
Yep. Let's see. A leading company for alternative protein leveraging biotechnology. Biotechnology in scope, but please let me know. No, you're absolutely correct. Zume-san, you are definitely in scope. We would certainly look at your application with great interest. Assuming that, as your name suggests, you'd be coming from Japan or your business is set up in Japan, we recognize that there's a lot of interest in the alt protein space still in the Japanese market. And whether it's I'm not entirely sure what biotechnology entails, but any sort of novel processing or novel ingredient or some sort of enhancement to the products that are available today on the market, we would definitely take interest in. So encourage you to submit an application.
All right. Do we have any final questions? Otherwise, as always, our line is open. So if you have any questions after this, feel free to drop it to me. And if it's a question that I cannot answer, I will let the rest of the team know to address them. So thank you everybody for joining us today. If there are no final questions. All right, we have a question from Ling on business model. I think this is a question, John, you have to answer.
Yeah. I'm just trying to digest it. Yeah, so something like a processing technology or something along the supply chain, I suppose. Yeah, like, look, I think definitely. Hello, Rosemary, welcome. Leng, I think, definitely something that we would look at, new processing technologies is definitely within scope. And once again, to repeat a point, very much of interest for a number of our strategic partners. Ultimately, we have to believe that there is that. Ultimately, we have to believe in the investability of the business in order to generate those types of returns, and balance that with the impact and the potential sort of customer strategic angle. But definitely, this is an area that we would be looking at. And even if, just to give you an example, no commitments here, but even if you were not selected for participation and receive the investment, oftentimes we would take the applications and put them in touch with some of our corporate partners for follow-up conversations to explore this solution that you would be looking to bring to market. Once again, just to repeat the point that with the investment component, as with most other investors you would be receiving capital from, there has to be a sort of return on investment expectation. We have our own metrics and parameters, which we have to sort of rationalize when sort of accepting you into the program and investing in your company. But that's not to say we can't help make introductions and add value even without that sort of participation element. So hopefully that encourages you to submit an application. Thanks, Lang.
Thanks, John. We have a final question from Mamat. AgriFintech will be in which category? I think maybe to re-emphasize the categories that we listed, they are not the only categories that we will be looking at. So as long as your solution is indeed very innovative and actually introducing value and impact into the ecosystem, it is something that we could look at, but make sure it is something interesting and something that's special and unique. All right, so can you send us the application form? There will be a follow-up email that will be sent to all of you tomorrow that includes the recording from this session, the slides, and there will be the link to the application form. Evelyn asks, have we worked with companies from Africa? We do have an alumni for Africa called Veggie Victory, so they were in our third cohort. So we have worked with companies from Africa. Is there any elaboration, John, you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually, in addition to Veggie Victory, they are a alternative protein sort of B2C company, really sort of rethinking the value proposition and form factor of alternative protein for the African market. Really exciting guys. In, I think, one of the earlier cohorts, actually, it was GIA2, we worked with a company called Ruby Labs, which is trying to sort of decentralize veterinary support for smallholder farmers. So once again, just sort of another case study or example of the variety of companies that we're working with. In this case, their target audience were smallholder farmers, and being able to deliver the vaccines and the medications necessary to support them in order to avoid and prevent unnecessary sort of livestock death and disease, and increase income essentially to smallholder farmers through that sort of distribution network. So yes, we do have some experience working with African startups.
Thanks, John. Lisa has a good question on traction elaboration regarding the application form, and that there are many options given for that question on traction. So if I recall correctly, some of the options that we have for that question would be things like whether you have revenue, whether you have pilots with partners, whether you have spoken to your potential customers. So to give us a sense of how much you have already done, pick maybe the 3 to 4 most relevant or most updated portions of your traction. So many of the applicants may not be at revenue stage, but maybe you have had unpaid pilots, or you have had say maybe surveys with your customers or interviews with your customers. So let us know how far you've gone in your journey in terms of that traction. So traction isn't just revenue. Traction is really just what you have done so far to progress on developing your business or testing it out. Does that answer your question, Lisa? Let me know if you need more elaboration. All right. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for staying on for the questions. And I think I'm repeating it for the 3rd time. If you still have the final questions, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to know what you guys are working on, share more about the program, and hopefully see some of you in the actual program in a few months' time, or in the interviews. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.